There we go. That works.
Okay. All right, so where's the present button? So first off, thank you guys for joining. Feel free to jump in if you guys have a question or comment at any time. Just let me know. Okay. All right. So first question I got was, will we see less arm injuries now that players are pitching in less games? So there's two things that could happen here. One, we could see more injuries. We could see less, and we could see no difference. So there's actually three things. First thing is, if guys don't, when games get started, if guys don't ramp up properly and throw regularly and are throwing for several weeks before their season starts, you could see an uptick in injuries. We saw that a little bit in the fall, where guys took off. They finished their summer season in July. A lot of guys took off in August, and then boom, September hits and they're not ready for games. And you get some minor shoulder soreness or some forearm soreness, things like that normally don't appear if you're throwing properly and you keep throwing. So if guys don't ramp up properly, you could see an uptick in injuries if you're not prepared for your season. Other side of that is we could see less injuries because there's going to be way fewer innings, which is way fewer games for guys to play in. So the amount of innings that, if a 12-year-old or 13-year-old pitches in spring, summer, and fall, you could see them. We had some guys that threw upwards of 70, 80 innings. And that's a lot for a 12-year-old. That's more than most pro pitchers throw in a year, for some context there. Your pro guys, if they're a reliever, are throwing 50 to 60, at the most 70 innings in a year. If they're a starter, they'll throw, north of that. But you see some really high innings totals, but from younger guys, this will definitely affect that. And then the other thing is there could be no difference, because there's a lot of different things that cause and affect injuries that aren't. It makes it difficult to predict what's going to happen. So we could end up seeing no difference. Anyone have any questions or comments on that?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
The next question, what are some good mechanics to throw hard? So for this, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go up to YouTube, and we'll pull up some video of some guys that throw really hard. How does that sound?
Good.
Good. All right, let me.
Oh, Philly's pitcher.
Philly's pitcher. You guys remember Pedro Martinez?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Pedro's a legend.
Martinez.
Pedro's was never a big guy. He was one of the best pitchers in the 90s and 2000s. So this is when he was with the Phillies going to the World Series.
At school, I learned about him.
Oh yeah, he started, right? He was in the middle.
He only played a couple of years.
Finish.
He was a really good pitcher.
Yeah, he was one of the best pitch. Yeah. So let's take a look.
There's that.
So
There's
the
really-
biggest thing to take away, guys, is that there's a lot of different ways to throw hard, and a lot of different people can throw hard. Mechanically, there's some differences, but there's also a lot of similarities. So we're going to take a look at some of the similarities and then take a look at some of the differences and see, what I'll look for when breaking down guys, and then some of the things that, and then whatever questions you guys have. So let me play this full screen. So the first thing is, as you see Pedro lift his leg, starts moving his center of mass forward, or he starts moving his body down the mound. That's what we'll often call like the drift. You'll hear that like when you lift your leg up, you're supposed to start moving forward. You don't need to move forward a lot, but just enough to where you're able to start using gravity and using the downward slope of the mound to your advantage. All right. Next thing, we'll take a look at his back leg. So what you'll see is his back leg. You guys, a lot of you guys have deadlifted, right?
No. Wait, deadlift? Oh, yeah.
Or a hinge, yeah. So when you hinge your hips back in your deadlift, that's a lot of what Pedro's doing with his back leg. As you're starting to see that leg come back, those hips sit back, okay, and as he drifts forward. You guys see that?
Yeah.
So as he drifts down, you're going to see as he lands, really this is the most important part of the delivery, is when guys land, when that front foot hits the ground, what happens now and where's your body at? So Pedro's front foot hits, his hips, you see that belt buckle starting to open up, his arm, his torso. Look, have you guys heard of like hip and shoulder separation before?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're seeing here, Pedro, hips are open, torso's closed, and his arm's up. Okay. So his body's in a really good position for him to now rotate really fast and throw the ball hard. Watch this play through. Boom. Play it through again. Okay. Another thing to pay attention to is, what does his front leg do? So when he lands, what we're looking for is a really strong front leg. Probably talked about that with some of you guys. What we'll call like front leg bracing, or being really strong and stiff with it. So you'll see when his foot lands, that knee comes forward a little bit, but it stays pretty strong. Okay, that allows his hips and torso to have a really strong base to rotate around. Okay. So that's Pedro. You guys have any requests? I have a few more guys pulled up.
Yeah. What motion does a sidearm pitcher have?
Ooh, give me a good sidearm guy.
Wow. Who throws?
Pat Neshek. Neshek.
Pitching.
You press the. Oh, yeah.
Ooh, this one's all MLB submarine pitchers.
Okay.
Let's take a look at that one.
Really down.
Craig Kimbrell.
Got an ad real quick.
Oh, I love that baby. Oh, that's super cool.
Okay.
I don't know if the angle will be good.
Oh.
Watch a couple.
Can they get hurt from doing that?
What's that?
Can they get hurt from doing that?
Yes, but not much. Guys, you're not really submarine pitchers. There's not a lot of evidence to say they get more or less hurt than regular pitchers.
Yeah.
It's just a style that some guys do. I can slow this down.
Playback speed.
So with submarine guys, a lot of them, they'll start kind of hunched over so that they can get their arm in that like good low spot. Okay. So you see how he's kind of hunched over to start?
Yep.
That's a really common trait with those guys. And then not a ton of back leg or hip, like that hip hinge that you see with like Pedro, or you'll see with like a Verlander or a Chapman. There's not a lot of that because if they're sitting way back, they're not going to set their body up in position to throw from that lower slot. Okay. We'll go again.
Doesn't it have a lot of movement too?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Pat Neshek's nasty.
Yep.
See some guys that get super low.
Oh.
That's really low. That's what Pat Neshek. The difference between Pat Neshek and this guy.
What the?
Yeah. So let's take a look at that. Let's break that down.
It's like hitting the dirt.
Yeah, we'll call those guys a knuckle scraper. The knuckles scrape the ground.
From Japan.
What team is that?
So he's coming way down.
It's not in the MLB.
Literally touching the ground.
Yeah. So yeah. See.
What?
Upper body, his torso is almost completely bent over, facing the ground.
How do you throw a straight?
When he lands, you see those hips are open. Torso's not as close as like a typical thrower, but there are similarities here between like a sub guy and over the top guy, but everything's just a little bit, well, or a lot more tilted. He's almost got his knee on the ground too as he comes through. And those guys get some crazy movement on the ball. Steve Cishek. Cishek.
Wow.
Something that I think is worth taking a look at, guys, is a lot of these guys that are called submarine or like, yeah, like a submarine pitcher, they don't throw from that low of a slot. See if I could pause this. So that's roughly where Steve Cishek is throwing from. That's not that different than you guys play shortstop, third, middle in, if you guys play different positions, you have to throw from different angles. If you're a third baseman and you field a chopper, right, you have to run in and throw that ball from down under. So a lot of these positions, while they're very different from a hitter, from what you're going to see like from a normal pitcher, they're not that different than normal throws that you guys would execute in a given day. That makes sense? You guys get what I'm saying with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else you want to say?
I do. Does them like finishing like with their momentum like to the left, like does that affect the pitch at all?
I would say it doesn't affect the pitch, but yeah, it's really classic of submarine guys to finish. They don't always finish off to the side. Like normal pitchers, your right-handed guys will finish towards first base. Left-handed guys will finish toward third base. Some of them actually, so you'll see here. See how Ziegler finishes like across or on the opposite side that most guys do. A lot of that has to do with how the front leg lands and the position that your upper body's in as you're producing force to get your arm around. Basically, upper. So, that's one of those really unique things with submarine guys is that they don't finish to their glove side as often as other guys do. Some do, but others don't. Yeah, he finishes to the arm side and not the glove side.
Hi, Cooper.
So now, were you asking just in general, like if guys fall off the mound or fall off to the side, does that affect the pitch?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's pull up. I had a good Verlander clip up here. There it is. So typically falling off gets a bad rep. There are different ways. So throwing's very rotational. You need to rotate very fast to produce forces to throw the ball hard. In order to rotate fast, if you're thinking about spinning, you're going to fall off a certain way, or you may not stay straight like it's sometimes requested or asked, or stay in a good fielding position, right? Those are things that you hear a lot, but when you look at the things that are necessary to throw hard, there's going to be some degree of your body finishing the throw that's going to pull you off target. It's like you could see like Justin Verlander kind of, does he kind of fall off to first base a little bit? Would you guys say that? Yeah, I'll play again.
Yes.
Yeah. Justin Verlander's had, throws 100 and he's like 35. And he's been one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball for 15 years. Right. So there's a lot of stuff mechanically that he does really, really well. And part of that is falling off at the end. Why does he fall off to that side? So we could take a look. So when that front foot lands, hips are open, torso's closed, arms up. And now he rotates. See how he rotates with his upper body. That glove side's going to rotate through really well. Okay. the arm moving that fast and the body moving that fast in a rotational way is what's going to pull him off toward that first base side or have him fall off the rubber. But yeah, while that's something that gets, hold on. I'll just snap out of that. So while that's something that gets like taught out of guys, it's not really something that should be worried about so much. Now, if your chest is opening up early or you're out of control of your body, that's something that needs to be worked on. But that's different than you need to like stay straight and not rotate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other questions do you guys have? Anything. Ask about anything. Could be more mechanical stuff. It could be other pitching stuff. We could keep looking at videos.
Come here, Maverick.
Okay. Take a look at nothing. We'll go through one more video. Who do you guys want to see? I'll pull it up. Any requests?
We can do another video.
Josh Hader.
Josh Hader, good one.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Uh,
4 years ago. What team is he on?
he's on the Brewers.
Yeah, bros.
I'll let this play through. That's interesting. Okay. All right. So something that's big characteristic of Josh Hader is the turns his butt basically or turns his back toward the batter as he lifts his leg.
Why? Why does he?
I don't know why. I would say this though, in general, like guys turning their hips a lot toward the batter, toward home plate. I would say that's more of a stylistic thing. That's something that gives you something different to throw at the batter. It's not necessarily going to contribute to you throwing harder. Okay. And as you'll see, as it's tough to see where he lands because of this banner at the bottom, but we can kind of estimate it's about maybe a click back. So what are some of the characteristics we see here? We see his hips are open, torso's closed, that arm's about up, right? And he's ready to throw. Arm comes through.
It looks like way more effortless, like than the other guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say, like, how much effort a given guy's putting into a given pitch, you know? Some guys throw all out every pitch. Oops. Come on. And other guys are a little bit more, they'll kind of cruise. Like you'll see that with Verlander a lot. He'll cruise for 4 or 5 innings at 93 to 96, and then in the 7th and 8th inning he'll bump it up to 98, 99, which is something that you don't see from too many guys.
Definitely can do that though, because of his velocity.
What's that?
He has room to do that though, because he throws so hard.
Yeah.
Like some guy in the MLB that might throw 91, couldn't throw 85 to 87. That wouldn't work.
No. Generally, the harder you throw, the better. Because if you throw like Verlander, if you throw 100, you can then sit at 93 to 95 with great stuff and do your thing and get batters out, and then you have that in the tank when you need it. If you're throwing, if you top out at 98 and you live at 97 and 96, you're using more effort for a given pitch, for every pitch. Do you guys have any more questions for me?
No.
No?
No.
No?
What's up, buddy? Nope.
Okay. All right. Then I'm gonna wrap this up. It was good talking with you guys. Thanks for signing on, and I will see you guys soon.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks.